Thank you very much. So yeah, great, brilliant set of talks so far. Really appreciate that, and what Ralph just said was I think spot on. It was great to see his passion come out towards the end of that as well. He's usually the host of the things on the podcast, so it's great to hear his view. So my name's Tom Bartley. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Barbal. We're a tech startup based in Bristol in the UK. We are about 2 years old now. My background is that I'm a civil engineer, and I specialized in BIM, and I did my PhD in BIM implementation. And since about 2015, I started getting involved with Highways England and the review of their design standards. They have a suite of around 400 design standards running to about 12,000 pages. And when we first got to it, the average age of those documents was 15 years and getting older by a year every year. And the problem was that those documents were completely unmaintained. And when we did a root cause analysis of why they were not being maintained, it was because the pain of getting people together to review these documents, to go through the stakeholder engagement on those documents, and go through the approvals and all the revisions was just too much for people to be bothered with, quite frankly. And what that really boiled down to was Microsoft Word, and it being a real pain to work with. And Phil mentioned track changes and the kind of the chaos that can ensue. So we were involved in a program to help them manage the kind of the revision of those design standards. There was 400 people involved in authoring those documents. There was 2,000 people involved in reviewing those documents. And we were faced with using Microsoft Word, and we were looking at the different options that we could use in terms of technologies. And what was really available in the market were two types of document collaboration tools. The first is linear, so that this is something that you'd be familiar with through a document management system, where you'd be checking in, checking out, and the idea is the progression goes from one user to the next, and to the next, and to the next. Or there's real-time collaboration, which assumes that everyone's working on the same document at the same time, and everyone can just jump in. The challenge is, if you're working with people who are outside your team, whether they're clients, suppliers, external stakeholders, company partners, even internal teams in your own organization, or your boss, you don't want to be sharing your thinking in real time. Actually, we saw that professionals, what they like to do is draft in private and then share when ready. And so what that means, and that doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter whether I talked about standards, but actually, if you're working on a tender, whether you're negotiating contracts, drafting specs, or just general engineering reports, or anything that might sit alongside a project. So what actually happens in reality is something that's far more chaotic. Things go off. You've got more than, I've only modeled 6 people here, but I've talked to a project this week who have got 100 different stakeholder organizations that have to review a contract before it can be executed. And so every time these documents come together, you're wasting time. You've got version chaos, you've got merging copies, you've got to work out what's changed. You've got comments that you keep internally, personal comments that need to be cleaned out that you don't want to send to the other parties you're working with. There's a whole project management angle to this. How do we know who's got the ball, who's got what work to do, etc. And post fact, how do we get to the point on a paragraph? Where did we reach that conclusion? There was 3 different parties involved. Why does it say what it does? And we spoke to a contractor a few months ago who only 2 weeks after agreeing a specification can't understand why a clause said what it did. What that means is delayed contracts, wasted money, work at risk. And we heard from Seymour about the disputes that can come from these kind of things, ultimately confusion, error. And for the professionals themselves, often a lot of the late nights and weekend working that we have to do is just dealing with this document admin problems that we face. So when we founded Barbal, we had a good think about this, and we looked at the across different sectors and how does these things get solved in other areas. And we saw that software teams can have hundreds of people working on the same code base at the same time without it going to chaos. You think about Google or Facebook, the number of people that work on the single product, and Facebook never falls over in the way that a tender document might do, and that causes all the stress that it does. They actually solved this through a technology called Git 15 years ago. Git's a version control system that allows people to, rather than managing files and checking out files, it manages code at the code level. And what we saw was the structure of code is similar to that of contracts and agreements. And so the way that they work on documents is the same. So just to give you a very, very quick introduction to how software code is managed in Git version control, there's a master, what we call a master branch, a master copy of that software. And you take branches of that and you take a copy and you make your changes, whether that's a bug fix or a feature, and those changes get merged in, and Git manages all the merging process for you. So the idea behind Barbal is, can we leverage that same version control used by the software industry, but for documents? And rather than real-time collaboration or linear collaboration, we've come up with our own concept, which is concurrent collaboration. That means that any number of people can work at the same time on the same document. Everyone drafts in private, they share when ready. We automate all the merging. If there's a conflict, two people edit the same paragraph at different times and it comes together, we make it really easy to manage that. There's no kind of manual unpicking of that. It just gets resolved. But crucially, everyone is always working with the latest changes, and we push it out to you. So I'm going to give you a quick testimonial or an interview that we did with Martin Geach from Atkins, who used Barbal with a water industry client, and then we'll follow that with a demonstration of the platform.
So I'm Martin Geach. I am the Head of Information Management for the infrastructure business within Atkins. We offer kind of full life cycle data analytics and kind of information management services for clients across the infrastructure space. And we're all about listening to the client, listening to the customer, seeing what the pains are, thinking about how we facilitate those in the outcomes, and doing that really in an open, transparent fashion. So, personally, we use the kind of Scrum Agile methodology, which welcomes the client into our development team. We can bring them in, give them a voice. They can hear what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Is Agile the only way forward for kind of professional service clients? I can't say yes on that because it would be unfair, because there's so much business change that comes with adopting an Agile approach. But when we can apply it and it is understood with clients, that cyclic, repetitive, fully open approach to development, very much like we've seen with Barbal, has really driven some value for them. So the client understands where we're going to go. This digital transformation journey isn't unknown, it's really structured. I can see the building blocks that's in front of me. You've developed that building block with me, and I can invest in it and I can take it forward. And I can see rapid outcomes. I'll pull us straight to a piece of work we did recently in the water sector, where we used the Barbal platform to help us take some pretty vanilla engineering standards and drive those forward to enable a kind of future state of digital capability for the client. So quality management is fundamental. These standards talk about how great big water assets are going to be run from now and into their future. So having a document trail, an audit trail within a kind of open platform that everybody's been able to contribute to is huge in driving the quality issue. So the quality of change and control needs to be evidenced. So that's where we use Barbal. So we took the baseline standard and we were able to add in our little quality additions, but communicate those really widely with the client. Barbal helps us deliver outcomes to clients. So we talk about services, and I like to kind of say outcomes. So they have the ability to open themselves up to the supply chain, to their colleagues, to their peers, to say, look, this is the way we do our business. These are our core standards, our applications. How can we do better in them, and how can we evidence that and bring that into our being, as a client? So that's what Barbal allows them to do. We can host our standards in a single location. We can have a range of contributors come in to add quality statements into those standards. They're fully secure, but I've got this roadmap ahead of me that for me is just business benefit. So, the system's easy to use, it's open, it's transparent, it drives innovation and collaboration. Ultimately, value to the client should be an improvement, continual benefit.
Brilliant. So that's a great example from Atkins.
So I'm Martin Geach. I am the head of.
I think some key things there that come out is that we're very much inspired by how software teams work, and one of the key concepts in software that I think we might have heard several times today. There's words like agile, there's words like open source. And what we're really trying to do is bring those concepts and make them applicable in the commercial context of the construction industry. And we're also working in legal and international standards to give the same outcomes that software engineers have been benefiting from, but to everyone else who kind of works on these kind of spaces. So just very briefly, I showed the Git workflow previously. The way that we work at Barbal, there's a master copy. No one edits that directly. Instead, we organize people into teams. So that could be different organizations within a company, or different sides in the client and the supplier. People draft in private, they share their changes. Anyone can comment on those changes when it gets released to them. And finally, we automate that merging back into the master copy. And now I'll just give you I think a 3.5 minute walkthrough of the system so you can see it in practice.
Here is a quick walkthrough of the basic functionality that Barbal can offer. After importing your unedited document, you can choose to set up teams. These can be internal separate working groups or external teams of collaborators who need to work together towards a final goal. A draft of the document is created for each team, and whilst working in your team, all your edits and discussions are kept private until you choose to share them. To set up a team, select a name, add a description, and add your members. A team label is automatically generated, but this can also be changed. Once created, you will be taken to your team hub, where you can give any instructions and upload any relevant documentation. From here, anyone in the team can edit their own version of the team's draft document. Barbal supports a fully functioning text editor with configuration options to lock in corporate styles and templates. Whilst editing, you can be sure that until you choose, your changes and comments will be hidden from everyone. As you edit the document, track changes will be added visually. You can also leave a comment by selecting some text or hovering over a specific change. The selected text can be added to the comment body, making it easy to see what the comment is related to. As people reply or add their own comments, you can easily track them and see which teams the comments have come from. When you are happy to share your edits with the rest of the team, you can merge your document with the team's draft. If there are any conflicts with text that has been edited by 2 people working at the same time, both edits will be highlighted, and the team or individual can decide which to use. Merging the document also saves a version in your version history, so you can always go back and check which edits were done at what time. If another team member merges their edits at any point whilst you're working on your copy, you will be informed that your version is now out of date. Updating it will pull in any edits and comments that have been added since you opened your copy, making sure that you are always working on the correct version. There may be a need to group edits into themes for easy tracking and to facilitate focused discussion and bulk approvals. This is easy to do by mousing over an edit and selecting to link. A new theme can be created, or an edit can be linked to any pre-existing theme. Alternately, a list of all existing themes can be viewed from the editor, and edits can simply be drag and dropped onto them.
I think you might be on mute, Tom.
Aha, there we are. So we've heard a lot today from John from talking about integrated project delivery, and we've heard a lot about digitization, and we've heard a lot about collaboration and siloed working. And we think that Barbal offers the answer to a missing piece of that jigsaw, which is we've got digitization in terms of data, but that unstructured documents is still a key part of delivering projects. And we plan to be completely integrated with document management systems. So, CMAR would be the front door for contract management, but Barbal would replace Microsoft Word. You could build APIs to pull direct content out because we've got UIDs in every single paragraph. You might have heard of software forking. So you take a software product can be changed and adapted. We can do the same thing with documents. So managing subcontracts through the tiers, and ultimately it's always all secure. And we're making sure that we're meeting NATO standards for that. We can see lots of applications for Barbal. We're focusing on negotiating contracts at the moment, but it's been used for drafting specifications. Consensus is a huge part of what we do, and then on the report side of things as well. And there's lots of benefits, both tangible and also kind of from a mental health perspective. It's one of the most stressful parts of someone's job, dealing with the admin of merging things and the fiddling, the faff. Actually, if we can remove that and professionals can focus on delivering value, not admin, that'll be a huge change for the industry. So just to conclude, we're going to do a study this year. We're just about kicking it off into the future of documents for construction against this backdrop of digitization and data and analytics and automation. What is the future for the humble text document? If you're interested, I'll post a link into the Zoom chat now and into the LinkedIn as well. We'd love to have participation. Anyone who's interested in this topic, we'd really appreciate you getting involved with that for us. And once again, thank you, Phil, for the invitation to speak today.